I have a confession to make. I expect you to edit this part out. I inked myself. I've had this shirt for like 30 days, so I know. So it's a little embarrassing. I didn't have time to get a new shirt. So my name is John Morsi. I'm Chief Judge of the District Court of Maryland. I serve in that capacity in a number of different roles. In this particular role that I'm here for today, I'm the chair of two different committees. One is the Executive Steering Committee of the Maryland Electronic Courts Initiative, which we all call MDEC, and then I'm also the chair of the Advisory Committee. The Executive Steering Committee is the policy group. There's not too many of us. Myself, the State Court Administrator, the head of JIS, one judge from the Circuit Court, one judge from the District Court, one court clerk, and then my chief clerk. And we make the decisions about how the policy is going to be implemented and whether we need to get rule changes for some of the things that we're doing. The Advisory Committee, which Dino, Judge Torres right here is on, every time we go into a new jurisdiction, we invite them onto this Advisory Committee. And we get their buy-in. And the good part about their buy-in is they're there with the people from the South who have gone live and are now about 3 months out of their go live. So they got to watch the South go live, as the South did for the people before them. And eventually the South will roll off. It's the West turn now, and then we're going to go to Harford, Howard, and Carroll counties next after that. And I'll get into that a little bit more detail. Yeah, can you, oh, that's Elsie. Can you go to Stella? That's Stella. So, about a year ago, my wife and children ganged up on me, and you already saw Elsie, who's my more senior dog. She's 12 years old, which is very old in St. Bernard years. So they decided that it was prudent to go out and get a new little puppy St. Bernard. And so Stella came to us. She's 8 weeks in that picture. And if you can go to Elsie. That's Stella, a little bit older. And that's Stella with Elsie at their 1-year birthday party. These pictures have very little to do with the MDEC presentation. But everybody, I'm trying to get everyone to do Stella, right? Everybody gets Stella from the movie and make her the most famous puppy in the state of Maryland. But there's an analogy that I'm going to draw is that Stella is, new, she's young, she's vibrant, she has lots of energy. And we know from training Elsie the mistakes that we made in her training. Elsie's a very good dog, but she's old and she's tired. In fact, this is probably, unfortunately, going to be her last month, probably. And she needs to be replaced, and Stella was her replacement. Just like our computer systems. You can go to the next slide. Our computer systems, in many instances, like the ones in Prince George and Montgomery County, are 30 to 35 years old. And they are written in codes like Fortran and COBOL. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? So all you guys and I went to high school at the same time, right? That was what the cool programming language was when we were in high school 40 years, 30 years ago. And no one's writing that code anymore. Try to go out into the world and find a COBOL programmer. They're hard to come by. And so we knew we had to replace the systems. And so this is about 5 years ago. I was on the committee that did all this. And we decided there was a couple different ways to go. There's electronic filing, and if you read an article not long ago, Texas was able to go entirely electronic filing throughout the state, and they have like 360 counties in 1 year. And that allowed the attorneys to electronically file into the court. But if you didn't know this technology, what that article didn't tell you is once they get it in the court, they receive it electronically, they print it out and stick it into a paper file, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The other groups of states across the country have gone to an electronic case management system, and that's where the Fortran and the COBOL come in. And what that is they accept paper from everybody, but they scan everything in and maintain it electronically. And so we looked at both of these models and we said, why don't we do both? Because we really need both. You get the maximum benefit of doing that. So we had 11 different systems throughout the state that were collapsing all into one system called the MDEC. I'm going to go through my stuff very quickly because I'm going to turn you over to Arthur, who's the real show. He's my law clerk. Prior to becoming my law clerk, he was a district court commissioner in Annapolis. So he's used the MDEC system for 3 years. He knows how it works. Plus he's young and he knows computer stuff, right? So if you can go to the next one. So this is about 2 months old, but you can see we've already surpassed 1 million filings in 2017. So the system's working, and it's working very, very well in my opinion. You can see as we've added new counties on, there's almost 20,000 registered users. You don't have to be an attorney to be a registered user. Anyone can file. I'll talk more about what attorneys and parties of record get to see in just a moment. So here's what you need in order to have MDEC in your office. And it's mandatory for attorneys. As of the date that we go live, which I believe is October 16th, we won't accept another single piece of paper from an attorney. Only pro se's can still file. You can't send a pro se person down. It's a violation of your ethical duty to have a client that you send down to file in paper. I just want you guys to know that, because people try that every once in a while, and it's ethically not permissible to do that. What we found is in Anne Arundel County, we had a 30-day grace period where for 30 days we allowed the attorneys to file paper, or if they wanted to, file electronically. Can you guys guess what happened? They waited until the 29th day and then dumped every piece of paper they ever were going to file in the next year on us. And so in addition to going live like that, we had to deal with this onslaught of new filings that people wanted to do. And it really wasn't necessary, because once, it's kind of that, you just bite it off and do it. And once you get doing it, then you won't realize what it was before. So what you need is you need a browser. I'm pretty sure everybody has these browsers on their computer. Any computer that's been sold in the last like 5 or 6 years has all this stuff. High-speed internet connection is recommended. Any of the internet connections that are out there, Verizon, AT&T, or any of those are high-speed. Screen resolution, unless you have a computer from the 1990s, you're going to have that screen resolution. And the only thing that you may not have is a scanner. You're going to need to get that. But the good news is the technology on scanners has come a long way since when I was practicing 12 years ago. I have a very small scanner that's about this big that can do about 50 pages a minute, and it was only like 65 bucks. So you have to have a credit card, and coming soon, you're going to be able to have an e-check system. We're about to roll that out. I can't tell you the exact time. We need to test it first before but I'm talking maybe before you guys go live, but before the end of the year in any event. So you have to have that on record. You can't file unless you have a credit card right now on there. We are what they call PCI security compliant, which means we follow the same standards as the federal government does in the heightened capture. We don't actually capture any of your information from your cards. And then there's a 3.5% assessment of the filing fee. That's what's called a convenience fee under the rules. So if it's $30, if the filing fee is $30, you're going to pay about $1, right? I've had this question asked to me many times in multiple counties is, Judge, is that a item that is considered a court cost for the prevailing party? And I said, well, if you make an argument to the effect that this is a mandatory fee, Your Honor, very similar to a filing fee, I cannot file this in court without incurring this fee, and I think that that's a cost as defined in the rules, I think that's a pretty strong argument. But I don't sit. So you got to make that in front of the other judges that are out there and make that argument and see what they say. So I'm about to get into all this. There's a couple other points I wanted to make while I'm here. Is that MDcourts.gov. Does anybody ever go on our website? There's a ton of information on our website. We spend a lot of time. There's tutorial videos. There's all sorts of things on there. And it all starts at MDcourts.gov, and you'll see it's circuit courts, district courts, all four courts both courts of appeals. And this is where you go. This is the home page where you file. Next one. So what are the requirements in the 20 series rules? And I know if you were like me, even as a judge, I don't sit down with my rules and go over them at night before I go to bed, right? I look at the rules when I'm not sure what the rule says. But I can tell you the 20 rules are pretty important to read because they govern how you electronically file. The 16 rules are also pretty important because they tell you what's public record and what's not a public record. But if I had to choose between the two, with MDEC coming, I'd read the 20 rules. They're pretty straightforward. It says a couple things. One, it says that the electronic file is now the official court record. So if a self-represented litigant comes in and files a complaint, once we scan it in, that's the electronic official court record, and we hand them back what we just scanned, because we're not taking any more paper come October 16th. There will not be one piece of paper that's maintained by the court, whether you're an attorney or a self-represented individual. What's going to happen, and Arthur's going to show you, is you'll send it in electronically, and immediately you'll get an email back from the court saying, we got it. That's not to say that we've accepted it yet, so think about it as if it's an envelope that you're sending in, right, in the mail, and the clerk just stamps it as received. That's the first email you're going to get. And then the second email, and I ask you to give them a little patience right when we go live, because when we started out at Anne Arundel County, in the paper world, they were averaging about 5 days. You guys don't know any of this, because if you were like me as an attorney, I could care less what the clerk did with my filing once I got my stamped copy, right? I had my stamped copy, I was good, it didn't malpractice, life's good. The clerk sometimes would let that sit on a shelf for 15 or 18 days until the summons was due or until the motion was scheduled, and so they didn't enter anything into a computer because no one was looking at the computer because it didn't matter. Well, now, in the review process, you guys are going to be sitting there waiting for that second email that says this has been accepted by the court and approved. When you first start out, so we had a 5-day limit in the paper world in Anne Arundel County for new filings. When we went to the MDEC world, it got to be as high as 10 or 12 days. And we knew this going in. We knew it was going to take longer initially, because not only you all are learning a new system, some of the clerks have worked for the district court for 20 or 30 years. They were here before there was even an electronic system in some cases. Now they have to learn a whole new system, and it just takes them a while. It takes about 2 months for them to get up to speed. But I can tell you right now, in Anne Arundel County, it has 2 district courthouses, one in Annapolis and one in Glen Burnie. And Glen Burnie does the primary amount of the civil. And I can tell you that it's same-day acceptance now in Glen Burnie. So in the paper world, it used to take 5 days. When we were first starting, it was taking as many as 12 days. And now it's same day. In fact, my former law clerk, who Arthur replaced, called me the other day just to tell me that they had accepted her filing within a couple hours. And we'll get to that. I'm not promising that, though, right away, so please be patient with your clerks. They're learning a new system. They will do it. Signatures. Electronic signatures are permitted, except I already had one question on that before I even started, except for affidavits. And that's because the rules require an affidavit to be wet signed by your client, and then you're going to have to scan that in. There's no way around that right now. We're going to add, the only thing that's not going live when you go live on October 16th is landlord-tenant. And that landlord-tenant is a component that's being built for us as we speak. I've seen it. We're going to launch it when we get to Baltimore County. Figure they're the largest landlord-tenant court in the state. If we can do it there, we'll be able to do it everywhere. And we'll eventually come to you. But as part of the bulk filing solution for landlord-tenant, because some of the bigger landlords file 300, 400, 500 complaints at a time, we're going to ask the Rules Committee to do away with that wet signature requirement for affidavits, and we'll see. Remember, the Rules Committee is chaired by Judge Wilner. I'm actually not a member of the Rules Committee, although I go to every single meeting. And then my job is to, if the rule is approved out of the Rules Committee, I have to get 4 out of 7 on the Court of Appeals to agree that this rule change is good. Sometimes that's hard to do. Clerk review, again, the official record, everything else electronic signature /S/. Just make sure somewhere on that document line is your printed name, okay? All right, next one. So where do we go from here? Again, we started in Anne Arundel County about 2.5 years, almost 3 years ago now. You guys are next in the west. Then we go to the north central, which again is Howard, Harford, and Carroll in April of 2018, Baltimore County in October of 2018. And then we start with Montgomery, then it goes Prince George's, and then it goes Baltimore City. And the reason I don't have dates, I know the dates on there, but what each one of those 3 counties had not only the same system that the other 21 counties had, but they have built themselves, because they're so large, an additional program, or in some cases 2 or 3. And so it's like we're back to ground one. You guys are the 15th or 16th counties that we're doing, 15 through 18. So we're getting pretty good at it because you guys have the same system as Anne Arundel County had. Baltimore, Prince George's, and Montgomery County have different systems. So normally there's a 7-month period. If you ever notice, we've gone in 7-month increments. With the big three, we're going into 18-month increments. So this is just a summary of it. Go to the next one. There's all sorts of things. Again, MDCourts.live. We have tutorial videos that are on demand anytime you want, and they're in short little segments. So if you only have 3 or 4 minutes and you want a specific thing of what you need an answer to, I'd encourage you to go on and doing that. There's a policy and procedure manual, and be careful because it's 118 pages. And I was in Talbot County giving this presentation, and a lady that had to be in her 80s wanted me to pay the price for her toner cartridge because she accidentally printed it out when she didn't need to. I told her I work for the government and I don't have $118 to buy new toners. And then live webinars. And those are very helpful because you can ask questions on those. There's a whole schedule up when you have it. So we have a support desk that's there that you could pick up the phone right now and call. It's manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Tyler Technologies, who are our vendor, also has a manned live statement. And then you have Arthur, who's available except on happy hour. No. He's available most days to answer those questions. So I'm going to turn you over to Arthur, and he's going to show you a filing, okay? This is what the system is. He's not going into the live system because we'd actually file something if he did that, but this is a test environment that we have that allows us to mimic exactly what you're going to see when you go in. Is anybody here filing in any of the other jurisdictions? Okay, so you have you're going to be our expert. Does anybody have any questions on that while Arthur's loading this up? This is always the scary part of when you're doing a technology presentation. The technology actually works. They are. They're in. Plano, Texas.
Yep, there you go. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. As the chief said, everything is based on our MDCourts.gov website. What you want to do is go up this left section here. You click this register to e-file link. That will take you to the MDEC main page. See these 2 red buttons on the right here? MDEC is actually divided into 2 separate systems. The first system is the e-filing system. The second system is the electronic case search system. They are separate systems, so they will require different logins and different passwords. You can change the passwords at any time. They don't expire. However, they have different password requirements. So if you want the passwords to be the same, you'll need at least 8 characters, an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, a number, and a special character. Again, that's 8 characters, an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, a number, and a special character. And that's just if you want your passwords to be the same. Now, this website, as the chief said, has excellent resources. If you look at the bottom down here, the e-filing resources, we've pretty much accumulated anything that could possibly be useful for you. You have the link to the MDEC rules that the judge mentioned before, MDEC policies and procedures manual. I think it's actually up to 140 pages now, but it keeps being updated. It's very intuitive. It has pictures. So if you have any questions, feel free to look at that. It should cover pretty much anything we had it so far. Now,
one other point, you should go down to the uniform subpoena. You don't have to be on MDEC in order to use the uniform subpoena electronically. You can get it for any county in the state if you're like me when I was practicing. Every time I go to another court, I just pick up a couple of them and have them, and then 5 years would go by and I'd try to use it, and the clerk would yell at me for using a form that was way outdated. These are up to date. You don't have to be a registered user.
Yep. They're already signed. They're pretty pre-stamped as well. So you don't have to stop by the court for that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the electronic court system. Electronic filing system, rather. This is the MDEC Odyssey File and Serve site. I would recommend bookmarking this in the case filing system and not the mdcourts.gov website. The reason for that is our website does go down for maintenance at times. It's a separate site from this, so make sure this is bookmarked so you can avoid any outages if possible. This main dashboard is separated into 3 sections. This top section here will give you any notifications. It informs you of any rule changes that may affect you, any potential outages, or any other important information that the court would like to convey to you. So make sure you take a look at this every time you log in. This bottom right section, self-help, it has the webinar training sessions the judge had mentioned before, facts, and you can also, connect to one of our live help desk people, and they can, walk you through anything you need. And what you're going to want to do is you want to register.